So you guys will notice at the bottom of the page, lesson 1 for this unit is all about giving a suggestion or giving advice. Okay? Does everybody know what it means to give a suggestion? Can somebody tell me what it means to give a suggestion? It's similar to advice. But maybe you have a problem, right? Or maybe we're working on grammar and I suggest the right way to do it. A proposal. A suggestion is like a proposal or an idea to help you. Okay? Advice, you know what advice means. Yeah? It's very similar. Okay? I like proposal. So in English, there are primarily 3 ways that we give advice or we make a proposal or a suggestion. Alright? The first one is we use the word should. The second one is ought to. And then the third one is had better. Okay? Each one is slightly different. Okay? Should is an informal way to show opinion or give advice. Okay? So think informal. Informal. Can somebody give me a sentence using should? Anyone want to try?
You should be more healthy.
Good. You should be more healthy. I like that. So let's notice a couple of things here. He only has 1 marker, huh? I wish I had another color. Is there another one on there? Oh, here we go. I like colors. Alright, so notice I used, by the way, always find the subject and the verb. Okay? Where's the subject?
You.
Good. There's your subject.
Yeah.
Where's your verb?
Should.
And?
Be.
Be. Okay? So, in this situation, we call should, can, could, may, might, all of those funny little verbs, okay? We call them modals. 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 And there's a lot of them. Today we're talking about using should. Anytime you use a modal, like can or should or may or might or must, today we're just looking at should. Whenever you use should, it's followed by the base form of any verb that follows it. Okay? So you can create any sentence and it's always going to be followed by the base form of the verb. In this situation, she's good. She did a nice example here. Be is the verb. The main verb in this situation is be. Okay? Because we're talking about being healthy. A state of being. So it should be more healthy. And she's giving me a suggestion. Right? She's giving me advice. Is it formal or informal? What did I say? When you use should, is it considered formal or informal? Informal.
Yeah.
Yep, I put informal right here.
Yeah.
I could give you the same sentence. Give me the sentence using...
Ought to.
Yeah, give it to me.
Send me in English. What?
Go ahead and say it with ought to.
You ought to be more healthy.
Good.
Yeah.
You ought to be more healthy. So notice in this sentence, again, where's your subject?
You.
It's the same.
Yeah.
And where's your verb?
Ought to be.
It's ought to be. And actually, what is this called in English? Do you guys know? When you use to plus the verb? What do we call that? It's called an infinitive. An infinitive. Okay? Anytime you use to plus a be, any verb, to eat, to go, to be, it's called an infinitive.
With every verb.
Anytime, yes. Anytime to is used with a verb, and it's always in the base form. The base form is actually called the zero infinitive form. Because look what happens. When you get rid of the infinitive, you're left with the base form. So it's called the base form or the zero infinitive form. Okay? So it's kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
After a modal, what form of the verb do you always use?
Be
The base form.
base form.
The base form of the verb. All right? Now you'll notice down here your verb is ought,
Yeah.
but it uses this formula. It always is you ought to. So it's always ought plus an infinitive. Okay? So you ought to be more healthy. Good. And which one of these is more formal? Which one's formal? It's proper, right? Proper English.
Should.
Is that informal or formal?
Informal.
This is informal.
Yeah.
We use it all the time on the street.
Yeah.
You should do that, you should do that. You're right? Now, if you're being proper, right? Proper English, especially in writing. If you're writing a formal business letter and giving advice or something, we would say, ought to.
Because maybe that's why it's first time I heard this word.
Yeah. And it might be because you've heard more on the street or with your friends, should. But in formal writing, or maybe in the news, or this kind of a thing, if you want to be like with your kids, your discipline.
Academic writing maybe.
Yeah, academic writing. Ought to. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
All right. Again, they're used the same way. Opinion or advice. All right, somebody else, give me a different sentence. Anybody want to give me another sentence? And let's have someone different. All right, so Ahad gave us the first one. Kim, can you give Ada some advice or a suggestion of something that she should do?
She should.
She should, good. What?
Study hard.
Good. She should
Study hard.
study hard. Excellent. And again, did he go formal or informal?
Informal.
He went informal. He's just giving her some advice. He uses should. Where's your subject?
She
She, your verb.
study. Should study.
Should study, good. What kind of a verb do we call this?
Model.
It's a modal. It's always followed by what form of the verb?
Study.
It's base
The
form.
base form or the zero infinitive form.
Yeah.
Okay? Because Kim, now give her formal advice using this.
She out start
She,
out
good.
to start
What?
study
Good.
hard.
Good. Nice. And again, you use ought plus the infinitive, and this is always in what format?
Base form.
The base form, or the zero infinitive form, right? And well, of course, it's anytime you follow the to with a verb, it's always in the base form. Or the
It's
zero.
meaning also it's the verb without any add or something new. Like maybe studying, it's like this.
Correct. It's the form you would find in the dictionary
Okay.
when you look it up.
Yeah.
But be careful because it is really best to call it the zero infinitive form, because if you're in the simple present with a he or a she, it would be studies with an S on it. So it's not really the present form of the verb. It's really the base form is the zero infinitive form. So if you want to capture the base form, always put to in front of it, right? And then get rid of the to, and that's the base form. Yeah. Okay. All right, now one other piece of information that's really useful. A couple things to note about these two, okay? You cannot use ought to in the question form or in the negative form, okay? If you want to create a question, you need to use should, or a negative shouldn't. Okay, so let's practice a second, okay? Let's use both of these. Can Kim, since you created it, can you make this into a question?
Like this.
Make it a question first.
Okay. Have she?
Let's talk a second. remember when you make a statement, you have subject, verb, and usually an object or whatever comes after it.
should,
When you make a question, you got to make a sandwich. You got to make a sandwich. You got to invert. Put that over
should
there.
she study hard?
Good. Should
She
she
study hard.
study hard? Good. All right. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
So where's your subject?
She
Good. Where's your verb?
Should study.
Good. So you made a sandwich. I call it a sandwich, a question sandwich. Okay? You can also make this negative. Ada, can you make it negative?
She should not
Good.
study hard.
Good. She shouldn't or should not study hard. Excellent.
Can we say it in this way? No, she shouldn't study hard. With add no.
You can to show emphasis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe your friend is always studying and she never has fun,
Yeah.
right? And another friend says to you,
Yeah.
she should keep studying hard. She's getting good grades. And you say, no, she shouldn't study hard. She needs to have fun. Yeah. So you can add emphasis by saying, no. And that turns this into a small s.
Yeah.
She shouldn't study so hard. You might say so hard, right? All right. Now look, you can't do that with ought. All right? You can't say, ought to she study hard? You can't do it. That's why it says no question under ought to. Okay? And you can't say, no, she ought not to study hard. We don't say that. You cannot use ought to in a question or with a negative. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, for a little more, just as some more examples here, will you read the example they give?
You should or ought to stay at the Milton. It's close to the town and very cheap. You shouldn't stay at the very way in. It's too expensive.
Okay, so you can see here a couple of examples of someone talking to a friend about where they should or should not stay. Are you okay? All right, Kim, will you read the little rule here? Use had better. We're going to jump down here. Read the rule for us real quick.
Use had better to state an opinion or give a tips.
Okay, so stop there a minute, Kim. So you notice it's the same. Opinion or advice. It says use had better to state an opinion or advice. So far it's the same idea. Keep reading.
The meaning is similar.
Good.
Similar to should and ought to, but had better express the idea that there is a
Consequence.
consequence for not doing something.
Do you know what a consequence is?
No.
There's a result. So if you do or do not, really if you do not do what I tell you, there's going to be a consequence or something. The idea is something negative is going to happen. Okay, if you do not follow my directions or take my advice. So they give you some examples. Ada, will you read the examples?
You better stay at the Milton. The other hotels are too far from town.
Yeah. All right, so here's the example they give. You'd better stay at the Milton. Do you guys notice? You had. Okay? We call this a contraction. Whenever you put two words, really it's you had. Okay? We get rid of the HA and we put apostrophe and it becomes you.
You would?
Yeah, this is what's tricky. You have to understand the forms and what works in certain situations, because you're right. It could be you would, right? You'd.
Yeah.
You would love to visit Indianapolis. You'd love to visit Indianapolis. That would be you would. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But because you're going to make a statement.
Oh.
And you're going to find out that whenever you're giving advice with a consequence, you use you had better. So that's why you know, and when someone's listening, you know it's you had. Okay? So you'd better stay at the Milton, and it's the Milton Hotel. Okay? Now, again, we just said it's the same thing. You're giving advice. Okay? But the idea here is if you don't stay there, there's going to be some negative consequence. What's the negative consequence? Well, it says, and again, Ada, what does it say? What's the consequence? Or a kind of hint, or give you an idea. It says,
The other hotels are too far from town.
So what would the consequence be of staying here?
Far.
It's a lot further from town. Maybe whatever you're doing is in the conference or your friend's house is in town. So you had better stay at the Milton. Why? Because if you don't, you're going to have to drive a half hour to come to the meeting or to come and see me. So it's too far. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's say, okay, Ahad, let's set up a situation, okay? Let's say that we have exams tomorrow. Now, give Kim some advice with a consequence using you had better.
Okay, Ida, you have better study so hard. If you don't that, you will be full in this level. It's okay?
Yes! Ada, you'd better study hard. And then what did you say?
If you don't do that, you will be full in this level.
If you don't
do that,
you will... Okay, time out. Remember, this is actually considered a clause, okay? An adverb clause of condition. And when it's on the front, before the result clause, always put a comma, okay?
Oh, okay.
So if you don't do that, what did you say?
You will be full in this level.
You will. Remember what I said about modal verbs? Will, would. So what form of the verb do you use? You will. Base form.
Base form, yeah.
You will.
Be. You will. Oh no.
Just use the verb. You will fail. Good.
Yeah.
You will fail this level. So I like it. Where's your subject up here? Ada. And then okay, really what you did is you used, for emphasis, you put a comma here. You put her name on the front. Ada! And then you put a comma. The subject is here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Ada. It's the same. There's your verb. You had better study. Really, this is not a verb. Okay?
It's verb had.
Yeah, it's had. Better study. This is actually an adverb.
Yeah.
Okay? And then, that's cool. And she says that because if she doesn't, what's going to happen? What's the consequence?
You will fail.
You will fail.
You will fail.
The label.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Why he used the capital letter F?
If?
Yeah.
Here's why. And actually, I need to be careful. This is a sentence by itself. Ada, you'd better study hard, period. And then you create a new sentence. This is called a complex sentence, okay? Because you have two clauses.
But it's together. Why do we put period here? Maybe comma.
Well, listen. And here's what I said earlier. You got to get good at. There's only 4 kinds of sentences in English, okay? And you never want to create anything other than those 4 sentences. You have a simple sentence, okay? Good question. You have a simple sentence, So you need a subject plus a verb, and usually there's an object. Okay? But really all you need is a subject and verb. I walk. That's a simple sentence.
Okay.
You can also have a compound sentence, which is two of these together. Okay? A subject plus a verb
Plus.
plus an object, and then you need a conjunction. You don't often see and. Okay? A conjunction connects
Okay.
two of these together. Okay? And then you need another subject plus a verb plus an object. Okay, so you can create this, which is what this is.
Yeah.
And then you have a third kind. And listen, you guys are going to learn this in the levels as you go further in the system. This is free. Complex sentence, okay, is a subject plus a verb plus an object. And then it's a different kind of clause. I got an adverb clause, okay? And so there's three kinds of, we call them dependent clauses. They cannot be by themselves. They have to be with a simple sentence or an independent clause. And they're called dependent clauses, and there's three kinds. Adverb clauses, or adjective clauses, or noun clauses. Okay? And they have their own rules. We're not going to talk about all that right now. But you created, that's what this is. You have an adverb conditional clause, okay? If you don't do that, and then a result, you will fail this level. So you just created, you started with a simple sentence, and then you showed the consequence using a complex sentence. Okay?
Yeah, it's
You
clear
okay?
now, yeah.
Okay.
So, we want to try this, please.
Let's try it. Let's try it. So let's set up another situation. Okay? Let's say Kim has a date with a pretty girl. Okay? And it's tomorrow night. Okay? Give him some advice.
Oh, me?
With a consequence. Yes, yes.
You had better
Be a gentleman.
Yeah.
or be romantic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't that,
If you don't
Do
do
that.
do
that,
that,
she probably don't like you.
nice, I like it. All right.
I got it.
Yeah. Now, let's pretend that Ada, okay, is going to get her driver's license in a couple hours. Do you have some advice?
Yeah.
With a consequence?
You had better need more practice.
Good. You had better, just put the verb, you had better,
Drive.
or
More
what's
practice.
the P word you used? You
Drive.
had better,
Drive.
you said something in the first sentence.
More practice.
You had better practice
You
more.
have better practice more drive.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't do that, you will fail your your test.
Good. All right. So you guys have the right idea. Listen, I like what you guys are doing by adding the consequence with an if clause. You don't have to. You can just say you had better, and then everybody knows. You can just kind of think about what might happen. All right. Let's see, Ada. So Ahad here. Okay. Let's see. She is going to go on vacation to Hawaii and leave on her trip.
Oh, I hope that.
Yeah. And she's going to leave tomorrow morning early.
You'd better get off early.
Okay.
Get up.
Get up. You had
Wake
better
up.
get up or
Wake up.
wake up.
Wake up
Early.
early.
Okay.
Good. Good.
And if you
You can stop there, or you can say, if you don't, what might happen? If you don't,
if don't that you miss
You
will-
future.
you
will-
will miss your airplane.
Good. Excellent. Good job. Hey, we're going to keep practicing. Turn the page. Turn the page. All right. And Kim, on page 54 up at the top, okay, read the directions. It says, give advice.
Give advice for the following situation using should or ought to.
Good. So we can turn the camera off for this. Yeah, just hit the off button or stop.